afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today as we celebrate our grand finale, a spectacular evening filled with joy, nostalgia, and unforgettable moments. As celebrations begin, let's take a trip down memory lane with a short audio-visual montage of the year gone by, reflecting on the theme for the year, the power of now, and reliving the moments that made it so extraordinary for all of us at Ladies Study Group. For the evening is To Calcutta with Love. We have the incredibly talented Baul Anuragi singer, Deepanita Acharya, a renowned folk artist who will set the perfect tone for the evening with a soulful Bengali rendition and welcome Sabyasachi and Pernia. This song describes a beautiful woman adorning herself with jewels and clothes. May I request Deepanita to come up on stage, please?
আপনাদের সকলকে শুভেচ্ছা জানাই, দীপ্রাহরিক শুভেচ্ছা। সব্যসাচীদাকে আমি ওয়েলকাম জানাচ্ছি। যে গানটি আপনাদের শোনাবো সেই গান কমলা সুন্দরীর কথা বলে, এবং আমি মনে করি সারা পৃথিবীতে যত নারী রয়েছেন সকলেই কমলা সুন্দরী। So this particular song goes to all the powerful Kamala Sundaris. নাচিতে নাচিতে কমলা সুন্দরী, নাচিতে নাচিতে কমলা সুন্দরী, হালিয়া হালিয়া পরে রে। এই নাচিতে নাচিতে কমলা সুন্দরী, নাচিতে নাচিতে কমলা সুন্দরী, হালিয়া হালিয়া পরে রে। এ ভালো কহিরা বাজান রে দোতরা, সুন্দরী কমলা নাচে। আজি ভালো কইরা বাজান রে দোতরা, সুন্দরী কমলা নাচে। আজি কমলা সুন্দরী নাচন দেখিয়া, কমলা সুন্দরী নাচন দেখিয়া, হালুয়ায় হালো ছাড়ে রে। কমলা সুন্দরী নাচন দেখিয়া, কমলা সুন্দরী নাচন দেখিয়া, হালুয়ায় হালো ছাড়ে রে। এ বাহালো কইরা বাজান রে দোতরা, কমলা সুন্দরী নাচে। আজি বাহালো কইরা বাজান রে দোতরা, কমলা সুন্দরী নাচে। আজ নাচিতে নাচিতে কমলা সুন্দরী, হালিয়া হালিয়া পরে রে। কমলা সুন্দরী পিন্দনের সাহারি, রয়ে দে ঝিলমিল করে রে। রে বাহালো কইরা বাজান রে দোতরা, কমলা সুন্দরী নাচে। আজি বাহালো কইরা বাজান রে দোতরা, কমলা সুন্দরী নাচে। আজি বাহালো কইরা বাজান রে দোতরা, সুন্দরী কমলা নাচে।
Thank you, Dipanita. Thank you for the lovely, soulful music. And that's her son here with her today, with us. Today, we celebrate a love story. A love story between a city and its most iconic son. A boy from Calcutta who dreamt big, who dared to believe that India's craftsmanship, heritage, and artistry deserved a place on the global fashion map. A designer who doesn't just create clothes, he weaves history, nostalgia, and dreams into every thread. He is the magician of international styling with an Indian soul. He is the emperor of fashion. It is an absolute honor to welcome the visionary, the icon, the inimitable SABYASACHI Mukherjee to the Ladies Study Group. For 25 years, the name SABYASACHI has been synonymous with timeless elegance, impeccable craftsmanship, and a deep reverence for heritage. And what makes this moment even more special? He is a man of his word. He promised to join us, and today he has kept his word, proving not just his commitment to his craft, but also to the relationships and values he holds dear. Thank you. I'm truly grateful to my dear friend Madhurima for making this possible. From dressing Bollywood's finest, Rani Mukherjee, Priyanka Chopra, Aishwarya Rai, to adorning Hollywood royalty, from international collaborations with H&M, Christian Louboutin, Bergdorf Goodman, and Estee Lauder, to launching India's first true luxury design house, he has shattered boundaries and created a global dialogue between slow, authentic luxury and the finest Indian craftsmanship. And today, in a rare and exclusive conversation, he shares the platform with the beautiful Pernia Qureshi, who is nothing short of a fashion force herself. A style icon, entrepreneur, author, and the voice behind India's first fashion luxury and fashion podcast, Fashionably Pernia. She has done it all. So, fasten your seatbelts, because this isn't just a conversation, it's a celebration, it's a tribute, and most importantly, it's a love letter to Calcutta, to fashion, and to the man who brought them both to the world stage. Ladies and gentlemen, with all the warmth, admiration, and excitement in our hearts, let's welcome SABYASACHI Mukherjee and Pernia Qureshi. Before we begin the evening, we have a surprise treat, a short clip showcasing SABYASACHI's incredible journey. May we have the AV, please? A short AV.
How are you, Sabya?
Good, little nervous.
Oh my God,
My
you are nervous.
Very. It's easier to do a show or a conversation in front of an audience that doesn't know you, but it's very daunting to do it in front of people who have seen you grow up.
Oh, yes, yes. You've grown up around them and with them.
With them, and they know all your dirty secrets.
So, actually, I've done this so much with so many wonderful people from India. I don't know why, when I was walking here, I was feeling nervous. I don't know why, because you're so lovely to speak to. Maybe, I have no idea. So we're in the same boat. We're both nervous for some reason.
I'm very nervous.
You're going to be fine. You're going to be amazing. You're a pro. I don't know any designer in India who is as eloquent as Sabyasachi. This is a fact.
Oh, I try, but Calcutta helps.
Calcutta helps, yes. Okay, well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on this beautiful journey of 25 years. I remember, I think, even buying maybe your first or second collection. I was on holiday from Calcutta. You were keeping your clothes at Karma. You happened to be there. And so, I mean, I feel like even I have grown up with you and the brand as well. We're all growing together. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start with this. There's so much to talk about, so I don't know where to start, but let's start with this. You write the most beautiful concept notes and the most beautiful letters before any big event, presentation, collection, and I read everything you write because it's so beautiful. You had mentioned having middle-class idealism in one of your beautiful notes as something you grew up with and something which is still in you. What is that? What is middle-class idealism?
You see, when you grow up middle class in India, you're excluded from a lot of things because the only thing that you can do is have a good education because that's the only thing that you have the privilege of getting, and then using that education to build a career. And what happens with the middle class is the fact that, many of them don't aspire to do businesses. So for a lot of us, I think our idealism, our cultural idealism becomes much more important than the money that we make because, for a lot of us, money is limited. And I think when you grow with little and you're armed with education, I think what happens is your mind grows stronger than your money does. And so it becomes a fertile ground for you to be able to grow and expand the horizons of your life and your world. And that is something that I've always cherished because I think, there is one way of growing up middle class in the world, and there's one way of growing up middle class in Bengal. I think when you grow up middle class in Bengal, your entire life, your identity, who you are, what you become, is crafted on or dependent on education. And it gives you real good values, solid values, when your parents will always tell you that doing the right thing and chasing the right dreams is far more important than making money because then you create value in the world and just not make money.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I think being allowed to dream and having a dream, because there's no limitation to that. You don't need money for that. You don't need anything to be able to dream, which I think is so beautiful. And I think that sense of that dream comes through in everything you do. I mean, from your interiors. I walked into Sabya's store, his Bombay launch, and I was looking at the carpets, I was looking at the paintings on the wall, and it's like somebody has dreamed this place into reality. And I was telling my mom, I was like, I have to go back because I didn't see the clothes. Because I was so busy noticing everything, the vase. I was like, oh, look at that vase. It's so beautiful. So it's just everything you touch. That dream translates into everything you touch. Do you feel that when you see your work now, that everything I dreamt of is finally becoming a reality?
I will also use a further reference to Calcutta. You go to North Calcutta, you look at the houses, they're falling apart. You think that people don't have rent to pay. You go inside and you see layers of terrazzo, beautiful carpets, old chandeliers, Osler chandeliers, beautiful masters, paintings. And, what I like about Calcutta as a city is the fact that, what we collect and what we value is never measured by money. It's always measured by sentiment. And I think that is what we take forward because, when I was growing up, I had very little, but I think I had very educated parents. My father was a chemical engineer, my mother was a painter. And I think they taught us that, you need to dream, you need to have sensitivity, and then the world is yours. And today, I think that, and I'm speaking to Calcutta. Firstly, I think it's a privilege to be born in this city because I think I've traveled all over the world. And trust me, ladies, I've been to every single big city all over the world. I think there is no other city that can replace this city, And I don't say this here because I'm in Calcutta with Lady Study Group. I say this here because I say this with conviction, whether I'm at Harvard, whether I'm at Bergdorf Goodman, whether I'm talking to an American television channel or back home. Because, while every other city is smart, Calcutta is a wise city. And, I think there is so much of, there is so much of culture. And sometimes I think, I've always said this to many people, that, in today's life, the only way to be commercial is to be non-commercial because everybody's trying to do business. Everybody wants to do businesses out of Excel sheets. And I also say, if I were to use the same thing, I say that the only way to be forward is to be backward. They call us backward. They call that we don't have exposure. But what they haven't understood is that while the entire world has modernized and everybody is being consumed by the age of influence and the age of AI now, Calcutta is going to become a very expensive city in terms of cultural heritage because our backwardness has probably helped us preserve and nurture our culture.
Very well said. I was just going to say, in fact, the new thing all over the world is slow eating, slow fashion, or I'm like, my grandma used to do that anyway. So in fact, a lot of things that we did for generations is becoming trendy again, and everybody wants to follow that now. So what you say is absolutely correct.
Yes, and I think, Pernia, you see, my job as an entrepreneur, somebody who does cultural entrepreneurship, is to understand where the world is headed. We had the age of influence, where other people told us what we needed to do. Now we have the age of intelligence, where robots are going to decide for us what we need to do. And I keep saying that, where does this end? And I think after the age of influence and the age of intelligence, we are going to move into the age of wisdom, where people are going to realize that the biggest luxury in the world today is to be humans again and to have human sensitivity. There is already conversation about the fact that when we hire people, we put more weightage and merit on emotional intelligence than just intelligence. And I think Calcutta will become such an important city for people to source from because the world is round, history repeats itself, and Calcutta was the true cultural capital of the country, and it's going to rightfully come back here. And also, when I look at what's unique to us, is because we've had a really slow and privileged life. To be able to have a life where you can slow down is the biggest privilege because time is of essence and is the biggest luxury.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree with you. I have stories. I keep bringing up my grandmother because my grandfather used to have a lot of work in Calcutta, I think in the 50s, 60s. From Rampur, they used to come a lot. And she would tell me that Calcutta was the place. It was the cultural hub. It was the fashion hub. And he would get her all these new cool things from Calcutta. And if I can say so, SABYASACHI has helped bring that glory back to Calcutta in these last 25 years, It's a fact.
I don't know, I have something else to say about it. I think probably Calcutta has helped me take the glory forward. Because if I was not born in this city, I don't think I would have had these resources. I look at Calcutta, I look at Chennai, I have friends who travel from all over the world. There's a friend sitting right now in the front row, he's from Chanel. He's come from New York to work with us. And I said, it's a very deceptive city. You've come from New York. In the beginning, you won't understand how this city really invades your mind, but then it's going to be a love affair that you can never leave.
I think, yeah. Especially if he sees it through your lens. These rosy-colored glasses, literally. These beautiful rosy glasses where you see beauty in everything.
And in Calcutta, you can wear clear glasses, you'll still see rosy pictures.
Yes, I love this unabashed love, you know, it reflects in every answer. I think every time you breathe, this love comes through.
No, it's immense gratitude, and I don't know. You know, you don't realize this when you're growing up. You don't realize this when you're in your mid-20s and your 30s. But as you move into your 40s, and I've just turned 51, you know, when I reflect back, I thank God every day that I was born in this city. It's a huge privilege.
That's the sweetest compliment, too, to the city and everyone who lives here. Honestly, because you are the poster boy. You are the star of the city. I know you feel very embarrassed when I say this. I can see it on your face. But it's a fact. It's true and it's beautiful, these 25 years.
No, it's odd because there are many women in this room who have made me who I am. I don't know if Neelu Parekh is here, but Neelu was my first customer. I made my first sari for her. Sangeeta and Purnima, who put me in my first ever store, SP. Preeti Goenka, Preeti and Sanjeev, who were the first ones to give me a professional show with national designers. And I was a young student. I was like, oh, wow, so this is what the fashion industry is all about. And then all the women in this room, you know, by believing in me, by wearing my clothes, by helping me grow my business, they have given me the wings to take India and Calcutta internationally. So I have to thank every one of them.
Okay, let's talk some fashion now.
Okay. Very nervous to talk fashion with you, but
I want to, first of all, I'm sure you're tired of compliments, but I will give it anyway. I want to compliment you for this huge achievement you have made. You have changed the way brides dress in India. Because at first, there were a lot of designers who were doing nice clothes, but brides were very lost. They didn't know how to style the dupatta. They didn't know what jewelry to wear with it. And this is even before you had your own jewelry. I remember you taking bridal appointments, because you've taken one with me, in Delhi at Karma, and saying that, you know, if you're buying the sari, you should wear it like this. You should do your hair like this. You were like a designer/stylist. People were getting both services with you. And slowly, when the jewelry and the accessories and everything started, like girls and brides were getting a full look. And now all these brides are so chic and so beautiful for so many years. Everybody wants to be a Sabya bride. And thanks to you, they all look stunning and nobody is lost anymore. So this is a compliment from my side. And maybe as a stylist, because sometimes I see a beautiful girl in a beautiful outfit, but the hair is wrong, the jewelry is not right, and I feel like, oh no.
No, thank you. And we try. You know, I've grown up with very fashionable women. My mother went to government art college. She was very bohemian. And I remember, even when I was 7 years old or 8 years old, my mother had incredibly short crew-cut hair. She used to wear these deep plunging sleeveless blouses with her cotton saris, and she used to have sunflowers in her hair. And you know, her friends were even more bohemian. Many of them smoked cigarettes. They drove their own cars. They had affairs. And I think they were a different... and you know, and I like the fact that, you know, if you look at Calcutta, I don't know about the rest of India, Calcutta truly is a matriarchal society. You know, so I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about gender politics and about how, we were speaking about feminism, and we were talking about equal pay. I said in Calcutta that concept doesn't work. It's women have more pay and they have more, and I think a lot of women have more say than the men, and the men are terrified of the women in Calcutta.
Beautiful. I should move here. No, okay, but I wanted to get into bridal fashion. Do you feel, I mean, I feel this, but I'm an outsider. Do you feel that bridal fashion with clothes and now even with jewelry is the core of what you do? And it's your backbone in terms of at least sales and numbers?
No, actually, we are going to be moving away from bridal. It is not going to be our biggest, it's not going to be our biggest business. And I'll tell you the reason why. You know, when a slew of these big weddings happened in India, including the big Bollywood weddings, the big industrial weddings, everybody said that, you know, there is going to be a very big reinvention of bridal wear in this country. Weddings are going to get more and more and more opulent. But that is not the case anymore, Pernia. I'll tell you the reason why. So I have many women who I meet at airports, and probably in hotel lobbies, and they asked me only one thing. They said, "Can you help me?" I said, "Why?" "I'm very stressed. I have acidity. I can't sleep at night." I said, "Why?" "Daughter's refusing to get married." I'm like, "All right." "And how old is the daughter?" "She's 32. Biological clock is ticking. I don't even know if she's going to have children because, we used to get married when we were 17, 18, 19, 20. And I was like, "Okay. And what does your daughter do?" "She's an entrepreneur." I said, "Where did she go to study?" "Oh, she went to Stanford." I'm like, So you give your daughter the power and the privilege to go in the world outside, see the best of the world, train her and encourage her and nurture her to be independent, be an independent thought leader, and then you expect her to come and bake cakes and make children and get subjugated to a man. I said, that's not going to happen anymore. And today, you see, there are other politics at play. There was a time when in India, you established social hierarchy with the power of money. But for the younger generation in this country, social hierarchy is being established by purpose, and money has no role to play. So I have a lot of girls who come into my stores who come from very privileged and very rich backgrounds. But they tell their parents, firstly, these girls don't even come with their chacha, chachi, nana, nani, parents, nobody. She and the boyfriend, and sometimes the boyfriend is also not important, maybe a girlfriend, and she'll come in wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and she'll swipe her Black American Express card, buy the lehenga, and tell her that, listen, I can't come for fittings because I have a board meeting. Can you send the outfit home? If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't fit, my tailor will do something about it. So there is no trials, there are no bridezillas, because they are busy building businesses. Because why should business be just the privilege of a man? It should be the privilege of a woman. Today we are discussing, the world has moved on so much that we are discussing about maternity leave for men. They said that why should women have to spend 6 months at home nursing a child when a man should do it too? Maybe the woman is a higher earner in the family and she has a bigger job, so the husband can change nappies. Why should the woman do it? And I think when you have these kind of cultural dynamics in a country that is slowly evolving and becoming very, very modern, you will take up your past heritage and bring it with you, but if that heritage becomes archaic, there is no need of that heritage anymore, because I think the only way heritage can be relevant if it becomes dynamic. Girls and boys today, firstly, there is no gender inequality anymore, because boys and girls are being raised by parents, school children, today we discuss things like pronouns. I don't even know what that means anymore. And many of you who have children and grandchildren will realize that they speak a language that you don't speak anymore, but they're smarter. And as society becomes more smart, more confident, and women have more agency, a lot of these women will say, if you want to do that 10,000 people wedding, I'll probably attend your reception, at the reception as a guest. You can do it for your friends and family. Me and my friends are having a small wedding. If you want, you're invited. If you're not, I'm very happy to have the marriage by myself. And I think that is the true evolvement of feminism.
I mean, I agree with you, but do you think the huge wedding industry in India is going to be very sad if this is the way it's heading? A lot of our business in luxury and fashion comes from the wedding season, quote unquote, right?
So Pernia, what happens is when society decides to change and human evolution starts taking place, we as individual people have no power to change it if society decides to change for the better. But a lot of new businesses will evolve. I think the food business, the travel business, hospitality, businesses which are made with experience, people will start going to theater again. I think parties will come back again. What had happened in India was we had only one place to spend money and demonstrate our culture. And that was only weddings. And in many cases, it created a toxic environment for men and women who were getting married. But I think there will be more such things. Like, I'll give you a simple example. Let's take Bombay, for example. When I was a young student fashion student, and I just broke into the circuit, I remember going into one of the legendary parties of Parmeshwar Godrej. I was very shocked. It was an eye-opener. And men and women in various states of undress sitting on beautiful kilims and carpets and everything, smoking and drinking and socializing. Everybody was impeccably dressed. And then much later, those parties happened with Raja and Queenie Dodi. Today, they don't happen anymore. Where do you go? You go to your friend's house for dinner, you sit in your home and watch Netflix in your pajamas, or you go to a wedding dressed up. I think the world is going to become far more social, and I think there will be different evolution of entertainment that will happen. Like, I remember when I was in Calcutta, there used to be legendary parties. Those parties have died down too. You know, except for Diwali parties, I don't see much of winter parties happening anymore. Because I think somewhere down the line, we have, you know, post-COVID, we thought that everybody's going to turn back and socialize. I think the internet killed a lot of that for us. Because, you know, why you go to a wedding is because you say it's religious, it's cultural, it's social obligation. But human beings need to have a chance to be happy apart from weddings. I don't think, we as Indians are very celebratory. We are very proud of our culture. But weddings cannot be the only way we express it. There'll be many other things, and it's already happening. I think tourism, you know, I meet so many people today at airports, and they keep saying that we are going for a gorilla walk, or we are going for tea tasting or wine tasting. And there will be many forms of it coming out in many ways. And the good thing is that fashion will come back. Yeah. When the parties come back, fashion will come back again.
I mean, starting with your 25th anniversary show and party, you're bringing that back as well. Let's talk about this 25th anniversary show. It was stunning. Of course, it was an ode to Calcutta. When you walked in, you were transported. I felt like I was in the most beautiful movie set that I could be in. Which movies is something I want to come back to as well. But I noticed, I mean, of course, the collection was very chic, but I noticed that there are not a lot of Indian looks, and there are not a lot of Indian silhouettes. Does that have to do with everything we just spoke about? Because you think that the industry and our culture, and we're evolving away from weddings?
No, you see, I've never, ever said that we are a fashion house. You know, I say that we are a design house or we are a lifestyle brand. Sometimes you need to do a show when you're saying something new. I don't even do runway shows anymore because most of the customers who come back to me, they come back for the same thing over and over again. If you look at my pictures on the internet, I have this jacket from Kanali. I bought it about 15 years ago. I live in 5-star hotels. Laundry is very good. The jacket never gave away. And if you can look your best in one outfit, why do you need to wear a second one every day? So I wear the same thing everywhere. I don't even have to think. My wardrobe is a uniform. And then if you look at the Indian customer, they're very practical and pragmatic. I think the good thing about the Indian customer is they're probably the smartest customers in the world. You know, many of you women will probably agree to that. Once you find a blouse sleeve length that is perfect for you, it'll probably stay with you for 20 years. Once you find a silhouette that is good for you, it'll stay with you for 20 years. And many people don't understand that, you know, what has fashion done? For the longest time, fashion has made money by feeding on people's insecurities, by constantly telling them that you're not good enough. So today they will say, if you are not wearing a short skirt, you're out of fashion. So when you have a short skirt, they'll say if you don't have a long skirt, you're out of fashion. But the Indian customer is like, wait a minute, I'm not that big an idiot. I don't need to belong to that club. Because for me, what is very, very important is that I define my identity. And I also say that, you know, the only way to be iconic is through repetition. You know, and if you look at all the women who are the biggest style icons in the world, whether it's Madonna, whether it's Jackie Kennedy, whether it's Rekha Ji, whether it's our dear own Usha Uthup, they have all been style icons because they have worn the same look over and over and over again. What fashion does is fashion makes you one of many. It tells you a lie by saying that, you know, I am going to give you a unique identity. But what it does, it homogenizes you. You buy one Dior dress, 15 million people are wearing the same dress. You wear one jacket from Chanel, thousands of people are wearing the same thing. How does it create an identity? An identity is created never by a brand, but by a consumer. Because the consumer will say, this is what I like, this is what I wear. And you know, today, I don't have to do a runway show for the next 20 years in my life, because the consumer who comes into the Sabya store does not even need my Instagram or my marketing. They know exactly what they want to buy, and they're absolutely happy buying the same thing over and over again, because it's their identity that they have found with the brand and not what we have created for them.
So what was the inspiration then for the 25th year collection? I saw a very lovely video where you were taking Suzy Menkes through every piece. But what was the idea behind it? I mean, I can see a lot of women in New York rock that collection. A lot of women all over India as well.
You know, the show was to set a lot of biases right. We had a lot of international journalists. We had a lot of very important managing directors and from some of the most important luxury houses. We had a lot of top customers from all over the world. And I was like, India does not have one narrative. India is not a land of snakes and peacocks and elephants and snake charmers or kings and queens or Bollywood. This is a country which has IT. This is a country which has medicine. This is a country which has performing arts. This is a country which is very, very cultural and very sophisticated. And somewhere down the line, in the age of influence, when certain sections of India take precedence over others that do not shout from the rooftops, this is what people believe India to be. I wanted to set that right once and for all by saying, don't put India in a corner because you don't even understand the country. So when a lot of people came to see the show, they were very shocked. They said, oh, we didn't think that this could exist in India, or this could be so sophisticated, or this could be so exuberant. You know, there are luxury brands all over the world trying to posture, but India does not need posturing because there is so much available in this country. And I'm a very proud Calcuttan. That's why Calcutta was on the map on that show. And I'm also a very proud, almost arrogant Indian, because I say that, it takes you a while to understand the game. What happens is, if you see, I don't know if you've seen this story, if you've seen this Disney movie called I think it's called The Ant Story. There's a colony of ants. They work very hard to get their food, and there are millions and millions and millions of them. They go in the morning, they come back in the evening, they're fighting and making a food colony for themselves. And there are 10 grasshoppers who are probably 500 times their size, who come every time, and they take the food away. And then one baby grasshopper asks his father, we are only 10 of us, and there are 10 million. How do we take the food away? The father whispered to the grasshopper, he said, don't ever say this, because they don't know they're 10 million. And this is India's problem. If India starts believing in itself, and I think somewhere down the line, today look at what's happening with the country. Whether we like to believe it or not, we have a very strong, aggressive political stand in the world. The whole world is looking at us, hoping that we are going to change their fortunes because China has failed and India's economics is still very strong. When a country that has been overlooked for a very long time, our backs have been broken by colonialism, and we have stopped believing in who we are, when we start finally rising and we start suddenly feeling a sense of nationalism, it's an unstoppable country. And that's the nationalism that I wanted to kind of put out to a lot of people watching the show, a lot of people in the show, and a lot of young designers. I come from a very middle-class family, Pernia. I had no godfathers, nothing. And if a young child sitting in one small part of India says, if he can go to the top with just hard work and idealism, so can I. It gives people a lot of hope, and that is what I wanted to instill in people. And I'll tell you one more thing, that India stops short of excellence very quickly, because we think that there's no end game to it. But once we all start getting united, we start collectively raising our voices, this is going to become a very, very powerful country. And I think Indians need to wake up and recognize that.
Thank you. That was a lovely answer. Now that we've touched upon your personal style and how you like to wear the same thing again and again, and it's quite, I would say, you're a minimalist when it comes to your personal style, but your design language, whether it is spaces or clothes or jewelry, is extremely maximalist. How does this work? How does a person who likes to be so simple in his personal dressing, his vision, when it comes out, is so exuberant and is completely following a maximalism feel?
Many reasons. This is a person that I am, that's a job that I do. When I come back home and I wear my Uniqlo t-shirt and pajamas, I become Sabyasachi the man and Sabyasachi the designer. Secondly, I grew up nurtured by two very exceptional women, my two grandmothers. My father's mother, who came as a refugee from Bangladesh, she had 5 children, didn't get married, very, very strong and severe and staunch, and, very spiritual. And my mother's mother, who was completely and thoroughly spoiled, was very rich, had many rice mills, but had a heart of gold. One taught me the power of minimalism. The other taught me the possibilities that maximalism could give. And I think somewhere down the line, I enjoyed both. But, you always build great businesses with detachment. If you become the business, then you'll never have an objective view of what the business needs. And I'm glad that I have a very objective minimalism and a very subjective maximalism. So I make sure that both of these don't ever cross each other's lines.
Very good advice. This is for people, who sometimes don't know how to draw the line. Maybe that's me sometimes.
No,
Very good advice.
You see, there are two things. You are either an artist or you're a businessman. And I'm always a businessman first. I do the art of business, but it's business at the end of the day. For me, when I was growing up, my father was working in a jute mill. A lot of the jute got perished in West Bengal because it got replaced by plastic. And he couldn't find a job. And I saw how a middle-class family could get devastated by the issue of unemployment. Because, my father used to do tuitions, my mother used to do tuitions, I used to do tuitions, a family of 4 scrambling to stay alive. And in West Bengal, if you see the best jewelry karigars in the world, in the country, they're all from Bengal. They've all left Bengal because there was no business here. If you see the best craftsmanship in this country, they're all, the karigars are from Bengal. Many of them have migrated because they couldn't find jobs here. And I want to take the next 25 days in being able to change that and bring about a cultural, social, and industrial revolution in craft in this country. Because the idea is there are many women sitting here who employ a lot of artisans, and they work with some of the best brands all over the world. And I think together what we are doing is we are creating reverse migration, because for me, I have a very simple agenda. While I build a brand that is going to continuously show the mirror to the West as to how important we are as I won't even call India a nation, I call India a civilization. And I've always said that I've never, ever thought India was a third world country. I've thought India as a first world civilization, because history comes before commerce. And I think when you create that revolution, my biggest agenda is to be able to create jobs. For me, if I have a choice of buying a car and buying a factory, I would prefer to buy a factory, because it helps me to create more and more employment, and I enjoy that.
Wow. Okay, so Sabya the businessman.
Always.
I do have to say, though, I've been a huge fan of your styling. I see these, for many years, I've been seeing these campaigns, which so many other people tried to copy, could never do it, because you're obviously a trendsetter. But the way you put things together, the creative direction, the styling, the marketing, like I said, your words are so beautiful. You have the experience, but to put them into words is not something everybody can do. You can do that. The marketing is amazing. Sabyasachi the stylist, Sabyasachi the designer, Sabyasachi the marketer, the businessman. What are you the best at, really? You're good at all these things, clearly. Again, business only?
I think I'm a society watcher. My biggest strength is being able to understand where society is headed before it gets there. I think that is what makes you an innovator, because every other job that I do, at some point or the other, can be replicated by people in my company. The only thing that probably I can do alone, and I'm not being able to find people who can catch up, is I understand the evolution of society before society changes. And that is what keeps us ahead. And that's probably what kept us ahead of the game for 25 years.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's super true and super interesting. You'll always be iconic, and you'll always be the trendsetter without even trying to be one. Okay, now, so we know how much and what all you've contributed to the fashion industry and the retail industry in India. That we've all seen your journey, like we spoke about it. What have you learned from the fashion industry? Because there were people before you. There was an industry that was already set up. I mean, I do have to say the fashion industry in India is very new compared to other countries. But what have you learned being in this industry for 25 years?
The first lesson that you learn is that it's all transient and ephemeral, just like fashion. So it's going to disappear. What's not going to disappear is the legacy that you leave behind. And nothing can replace authentic thinking and hard work. Because I think they are the most important things. And the other thing that I've learned, and a friend of mine opened my eyes to it, Deepika Padukone, is the power of patience. She only said one thing, I think on the cover of a magazine, that I don't need to go out into the world to become world famous. I'll bring the world to India. And I'm following Deepika's advice. I don't need to go and do big shows all over the world. I will bring the world to India. And I think that is what was a game changer for me.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, speaking of legacy, you just brought up legacy. See, because the fashion industry is quite new in India, we really haven't seen a lot of succession plans, how when a designer is no more, how they move on the brand to somebody else, whether it's somebody in the family. Lately, we've been seeing very large retail houses take ownership of brands, which I guess will help with the succession as well. What do you feel like for your brand personally, what's the succession plan? And in general in the industry, where is that going?
I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not a selfish entrepreneur. I don't even think Sabyasachi belongs to me anymore. It belongs to the people of the country. It belongs to Calcutta. So when I was giving my business to Kumar Mangalam Birla, I gave him 51%. I think the whole country was in shock. Many people came and told me, I remember Darshan Shah telling me, you cannot sell. If you sell, it'll break our hearts. What will happen to our businesses? But I said, this is not a post-COVID panic sale because, my company was very profitable. It had a lot of cash reserve. It had a very, very strong EBITDA, more than what international luxury brands have. But I was very clear about one thing. See, I don't have any children. And even if I had children, Pernia, I would never give the business to them if they were not right for it because I don't believe in nepotism. I believe that businesses should be given to people who are capable of running businesses. And I wanted to corporatize Sabyasachi because, when I realized this over the last few years because, I meet a lot of people when I'm traveling at airports, at different do's, in shops. And the narrative changed. When I used to do Band Baja Bride, a lot of women used to say, you're such a nice man, you stand so much for feminism. I want my daughter to wear your lehenga. Then I started meeting a whole lot of women after I started doing all these big celebrity Bollywood weddings. Oh, Priyanka Chopra looks so nice, or Deepika looks so nice, or Katrina looks so nice. Oh, I want my daughter to wear a lehenga like that. Today, the only thing that people say, they don't even talk about fashion with me anymore. They only say one thing, you make us so proud. And I have to step back and I have to think about it because that's a very big, very big responsibility that's thrust on your shoulder. And I don't even know if I'm big enough to be able to handle that responsibility when people say that you make us so proud. And I wonder that what did I do? I'm not an engineer. I don't build bridges that will last for a lifetime. I'm not a doctor. I don't save lives. Let's face the fact that I'm a designer. And in India, designers get a lot of undue importance for doing nothing. And I'm like, why is this happening? And then I start thinking about it, that it's probably because of the fact that, we have never backed down in terms of the integrity of the brand. Sabyasachi has never gone on discount. It never will. We don't take black money. We don't customize for anybody. It could be the most powerful person in the country, but we'll say, if my clothes are not good enough for you to wear, don't wear them. Because I do not believe in, we have just launched an art foundation, and we have a very simple mandate that we are never, ever going to do, what's that word, Stefan? Commissioned art. Because of the fact that when you do commissioned art, you are pandering to the hubris of the person who's buying, and you're diminishing the artist. And I say that, art should always have a higher value than money. And we've kept that. I think people are proud of it. They're probably also very proud of the fact that, whenever we've done international collaborations, I'll share a few stories with you. When H&M came to me for the first time, I gave them a really hard time. I had many conditions before I said yes to them. Condition number 1 was that this would be a global collaboration. Condition number 2 was it had to have significant amount of Indian craft in it. Whether it was digitized or not, it still had to be it had to be visually Indian. Thirdly, I said 60% of the product needs to be made in India because you have to create jobs, because I'm not going to allow a foreign company to use me to have access to my country and not create jobs in that country. And the fourth thing, which was a deal breaker, was I said, you have to make a sari. And then H&M said, but we are an international company that does Western clothes. We've never done a sari. I said, think about it. You do a sari, I sign on the dotted line, you don't do a sari. I said that to come to a country where you are feeding people with international designs and to take away people's cultural identity away, I'm not going to allow you. So we had salwar kameezes, we had kaftans, and we had a sari. This was the first time that H&M had done one. When I was doing my collaboration with L'Oreal, I remember telling them that, we are doing this. A collaboration is a collaboration of equals. And I said, if you do a collaboration with me, you have to make sure that Aishwarya Rai wears a sari in front of the Eiffel Tower, because Eiffel Tower is Paris, sari is India. If she's wearing, and they said, no, our international brand ambassadors don't wear saris, they wear gowns. I said, you want to enter India on my shoulders, you have to do what I tell you to do. I didn't back out. And I said that, India has to be represented. When I do very big marquee shows internationally with big retailers, I tell them only one thing. If I'm not going to get the same place as a Chanel and a Dior, I'm not even entering. I am not going to give you $1 million of sales through my Indian consumers and then you put me on the 3rd floor. That is not acceptable to me. I said, every collaboration has to be respected from both parties. And I think that is what India has forgotten to do. And when I negotiate on my business, I don't negotiate on behalf of Sabyasachi. I negotiate on behalf of the country. Because every time I break a ceiling, I give others an opportunity to say, fight for your rights and they'll give it to you. And I just want to tell you all something. You are in a situation where no country can afford to have a negotiation with you. And you should not ever forget that.
Wonderful. I want
So I was going to go back. So which is one of the reasons I sold my company, because I told Kumar one thing. I said, Kumar, this company does not belong to me, it does not belong to you, it belongs to the country. You have a great corporate. You've been a very silent partner. Together we shall build a brand that should stay beyond our lifetimes, which is the reason. See, if you look at, today fashion is in the biggest crisis ever globally. Everybody's playing musical chairs. Creative directors are moving from one company to the other.
I can't keep track.
Yeah, CEOs are, and today, Valentino has started looking like Gucci because of Alessandro Michele. YSL and Celine looks the same because they had one creative director. And CEOs are moving and taking one business idea to another company. So fashion will really belong to companies where the owner of the company is the creative director. And many of them, who are the few left behind, like let's say Miuccia Prada or Mr. Armani or Ralph Lauren, they're all very old. And you cannot transition a company when you're that old, when the world is becoming that young. So I was very clear that I will spend the next 20 years nurturing the brand, because I say only one thing. Who gives birth to a child is not the parent. Who raises the child is the parent, and I want this company to be raised by every Indian. And I'm sure in the next 4 or 5 years we'll IPO. We'll want to be able to give equity to every Indian who's believed in the brand, and to create something that we all have ownership of. And I don't think I'm the owner of the company at all.
Lovely. I did see an interview recently where it went quite viral, this little clip, where you had mentioned a very large figure that you expect the sales to reach in the next few years.
Valuation, not sales.
Valuation. What was it, Sabya?
2 to 3 billion, $2 billion of
I want
valuation.
to ask you this. Don't you feel nervous committing to a number, 2 to 3 billion? Because
And-
what if people hold you to it and they're like, Sabya, you said so, it's like so-and-so time.
Everything that I say on public domain is very measured, and everything that I've said, like I said to lady study group that I'm going to come today, I keep my word. I don't say things that I can't achieve. And see, it's a very simple math. If you look at the business of fashion, we have never really diluted the business. We've never done a Pret line. We've always kept our couture very small. Our jewelry is becoming one of our biggest businesses. Handbags have come in. And there are millions and millions of people. If you look at the Sabyasachi business and if you look at a copy market, for instance, a copy market is probably 5,000 times the size of our business. And we get copied to the nth degree. So today, if you go to any jeweler in the country, even established jewelers are showing our jewelry and saying, this is Sabyasachi first copy. So tomorrow when you give access in terms of makeup, just imagine a Sabyasachi eyeliner at 800 rupees. The difference is not much. Chanel would be at 1200, Sabyasachi would be at 800, or a lipstick. Or you start doing a moisturizer or a lip balm, and then you start getting into small leather goods. Look at the power of Southeast Asia, Middle East, Far East. Forget the West for a second. And all of this is going to become a very big part of the brand. So, valuation should be much more than that, because there are two kinds of valuations that you get. A valuation that you get from a PE fund, and a valuation that you get from a serious investor who's a luxury investor. A luxury investor, whether it's I can't take the name, but there's a very important luxury brand in the world that has a $6 million or a $7 million turnover with the $100 million debt. We are debt free. We are 60 million. And you're always given value on the basis of what the opportunity is and not what the reality is today. And the biggest thing in a luxury business is to make sure that you never destroy the brand. Because when you destroy the brand, people don't give you a good value because they have to spend that much money in advertising to rebuild it. We have built a brand that is very fertile for any investor, and I personally think 2 billion is a very small valuation.
Wow. Okay, the one thing I'm going to take away from this is that Sabyasachi, the businessman, is invincible. That's definitely one thing I'm going to take away from this, something new that I didn't realize until today.
People laugh at me, but probably it's a combination of my Bengali genes and my Marwari genes.
It's a deadly combination, clearly.
I have worked with enough Marwaris in this city. I've learnt a lot.
Yeah. Okay, now just something fun. Now, we know you've done all the A-list Bollywood brides. You are on their wish list. Every girl in India now, all the Bollywood brides, of course. Who was really fun? Who did you enjoy putting the look together with? Because I know you enjoy styling a lot. Who did you really have fun with? Who was a dream?
Who was fun to work with was actually Rani Mukherjee.
Really? Nobody's seen those photos.
She never released them. But the fact is that it was a mad wedding that was done between her and Adi and Karan and me. And she came over for lunch one day and she said, listen, I'm getting married. I said, how much time do I have? She said, 1 week. I said, okay, I'll put something together. And she was also very chilled out. And I think it's fun when people enjoy their wedding. It just makes the process of designing for them so much more fun.
Yeah, true. Okay, I do want to ask about another look. Alia Bhatt's look at the Met Gala. It was very dreamy. For me, I felt like she walked out of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, like she was a nymph, like this beautiful little person just floating. What was the whole idea behind that? Did she come with a concept, or the concept was yours?
We did this together. See, so the theme was the Garden of Life, and basically, it's a very beautiful story about when sophistication gets eroded by civilization increasing. And so it's this story about this couple who stay in this ideal palace, and they are seeing from a distance that vandals are coming closer and closer and closer, and they're going to vandalize their sophistication. That's a permanent problem today. And we talk about timelessness in fashion today. What is timelessness? Timelessness is truly about craft. Because the only thing that stands for time is craft that has been transferred through generations. And so we used that story and we said we'll mix it up with a lot of handicraft and craft to create something that is more timeless. And what is more timeless than a sari? To create the notion of timelessness. And what Anna Wintour was doing, she's very strategic as the head of Vogue. She realized that there was too much of influence happening and there was too much of fast fashion that was coming in as luxury. The next Met Gala that we are talking about is the Black Dandy and tailoring. What she is doing consistently through Met Gala is telling us that the most important thing in fashion is going to be craft and sophistication. So this was something that me and Alia did. I conceptualized the look, but she wanted to do an endless pallu, and that was her idea, and it was fun to work with her.
And then we can't forget your look with all those necklaces. Were you just having fun?
I wasn't
going
prepared.
to the maximalist side of it?
I was not supposed to go for Met Gala. I was called in last minute because they said, Vogue wants you to enter. I put in whatever I could in my store. The look was put together in 5 minutes.
Okay, so speaking of Alia and Rani and all these beautiful women you dressed, now internationally to Rihanna, everybody. I just saw Goldie Hawn on your page, iconic. What gives you more pleasure, seeing these women who are iconic and high achievers in the public domain, or seeing just local women going about their life and wearing Sabyasachi in their daily life? Like, what gives you more pride and pleasure?
You know, best pride for anybody who's in the arts is to be able to see a consumer paying their hard-earned money to buy your craft because you feel truly validated. And I think what I feel very good about is, I stay permanently at the Taj in Bombay, and every night there's a wedding. And I go into an elevator, and I'm stuck with a woman in that elevator, and I know she's wearing an outfit of mine. I can't tell this. And she says, it's from 20 years ago, still looks new. And I like, what gives me the biggest joy is when women bring back their old clothes and wear it with pride, because that is what good clothing should be. It should be timeless. It should not be about, fashion should have never been about what's new. Fashion should have been always about what's good.
Amazing, beautiful. Thank you so much, Sabya. This has been an absolute pleasure and eye-opening in many ways. I mean, I follow everything you do, but it's always nice to learn something new. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Now, this lovely audience, thank you for being so patient. We are going to open the floor up for a couple of questions. So if anybody would like to ask a question.
As my students would say, Mr. Mukherjee, you've zapped us. That was fascinating. Thank you for sharing that journey.
Thank you.
I actually I had a strange feeling during the middle of the talk when you were talking about feminism and how it sprouts through fashion and what you've been doing with the Indian woman in mind. And, I'm not being facetious, but honestly, I think you could get a chair's position anywhere for feminist studies. So that's a compliment.
Thank you.
The real question that beleaguers me, and this is really in some ways a thank you to Smita Roy Chowdhury sitting right there, who we know as a very innovative and inventive editor. I've known you through her in the beginning and after I came back. The question is, don't you think it's time that you collaborated, or if you don't have the time, or you wrote an autobiography? I think there'd be a huge market.
It is a work in progress. We are working with a publishing house, and I don't know if I want to talk about me or I want to put the spotlight on Calcutta. But in my head, the working title is My Life in Calcutta.
Fantastic. That would be an inspiration.
Thank you.
যে বাঙালিকে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল প্ল্যাটফর্মে নিয়ে গেছে একটা আপনি একটা সৌরভ গাঙ্গুলি সো দুজনকে আই জাস্ট বাউ ডাউন টু সে থ্যাংক ইউ যে বাঙালিদের আপনারা ইন্টারন্যাশনাল প্ল্যাটফর্মে নিয়ে গেছেন আমার কোয়েশ্চেনটা ইজ নট আ কোয়েশ্চেন ইটস আ রিকোয়েস্ট আমরা জানি বাংলা আর বাংলার জামদানি goes hand in hand. So it's a request for sari lovers like us যে if you could take out a range of Bangali জামদানি on your 25th year.
Noted. Noted.
Ami Srila, and just have one fun question for you, and then I don't know how to categorize the next question. When did you, because you've been telling us about your middle class values, when did you transition and how did you transition from being Sabyasachi to Sabya? And I don't know how you'll answer that. And today when you spoke, you know, I was reminded about from some lines from Tagore, Shesher Kobita, so just wanted to read it to you. Amit bole, fashionta holo mukhosh, styleta holo mukhoshree. Then there's something in between. And jara nijer mon rekhe chole, style taderi. So after Tagore, wanted your comments on it. And for those of you who don't follow Bangla, you know, fashion is like the mask and style is like the identity. And people who follow their hearts and minds, you know, that is, they are truly stylish. So after Tagore wanted, I don't know, Sabyasachi or Sabya's comments on it.
Firstly, বাড়িতে সব্যসাচী বাইরে সাব্যসাচী তো দ্যাটস এ ডিলেমা দ্বিতীয় কথা আরেকটা জিনিসটা হচ্ছে যে দেখো দ্য only beautiful thing about being middle class is that your exterior might change, your interior doesn't, because of the fact that, you know, once you're born middle class, you'll always be middle class, you'll die middle class, because what happens is you have that practicality about you that you question everything, because the difference between being rich and not mindfully rich is the fact that one gets attracted to price, the other gets attracted to value. I think values are what defines people, and I think your external financial facade is just a facade. And secondly, I've always said, and I didn't know this, that Tagore had written this, I'm going to go and read Sheshe Kobita very well, because, I mean, that's why probably he's the man he is, and that's why he got a Nobel Prize and I'll never even get nominated for one. So, you see, fashion is a social construct. It is what you do to fit into society. Style is an individual construct. It's always about who you are and what you believe you are. Like, for instance, one of the most fashionable women in this country is Tanushree. She's sitting right in front of us, and I've always told her repeatedly many times that I wish half of India could even dress like you. And I'll tell you something. Style will always lead fashion. Fashion can never lead style, because style copies, fashion copies style. Did I get that right? I said style will be ahead, fashion will follow. I hope I answered your question.
Srila, Sabya, actually the really interesting question would be, how did Pepsi become transition into Sabyasachi and then Sabya?
St. Xavier's to fashion. You know, I'll tell you why I was called Pepsi. I used to wear a lot of blue, white, and red, and I was painfully thin. Somebody said I looked like the bottle, and then the name stuck, and it's such a catchy name that everybody started calling me Pepsi. But what I really like is everybody in Calcutta calls me Pepsi. So one day Kumar Mangalam calls me and he says, I didn't know that you have such an odd nickname. Why are you called Pepsi and not Coca-Cola? I said, ask the people in Calcutta.
Good evening, Pepsi, and I say this from memory of 1997, St. Xavier's College. I was 1 year younger to you, studying political science.
Right.
And we used to call you Pepsi back then. My question today is, you know, you would be such a terrific mentor as a designer to, you know, students studying design. But have you considered going back to your very professor avatar, going back to classrooms of management and the kind of insights you've shared today on business and management? I'm sure those kind of students would profit tremendously from the insights that you've had.
That's a constant work in progress. So I don't know if you know, I sit on a very important advisory board in Columbia University, where we are teaching luxury management. And apart from that, I'm constantly traveling and teaching in whichever institute wants me to teach. I'm going to ESSEC in France next week. So I love teaching, and because I think the most beautiful thing about teaching is that it's such a bilateral exchange that you learn so much from each other. And I like the fact that when you have young students, they ask you the hardest questions that many people would be embarrassed to ask. Mandy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
I don't know if you remember, you came to LSG 20 years ago, and they hijacked my question about Pepsi. So what would you say is the biggest difference between the Pepsi and the Sabyasachi?
I have less time. I wish I had more time. Everything else is the same. I'm constantly flying from one city to the other. I think I won't even say it's the biggest difference. I say it's the biggest regret that I wish I had more time in Calcutta.
But something that you did a few years ago was very, very elegant. You sent out these beautiful hampers to many of us with Telia saris in it. You value Indian heritage a lot, with flowers in it and everything else. And you asked all of us to actually dress in those Telia saris and come to your store. It touched us so much that you could do something like that, make a gesture like that.
Thank you, Rita. I'll tell you the reason why we did that. We initiated a program at that point of time called Save the Sari. I think the sari never needed to be saved. People who didn't wear saris needed to be saved. And the reason I did that, I'll tell you something from Spider-Man. I don't know if it was Spider-Man 2 or 3, but he said something in his last lines which stayed in my head forever. It said, with great power comes great responsibility. And, I started the Save the Sari movement at a time when India was not wearing enough saris. The weavers were dying because there was no what do I say? There was no platforming for them. There was no D2C. There was no e-com. Pernia probably changed the game for e-com in this country forever. Can we actually have a big round of applause for her? Because I want to tell you, if there was a prize for being the mother of e-com in India, it's probably you, Pernia, because you opened a possibility for the whole country to understand what luxury e-com and fashion could be. And I remember she coming and explaining e-com to me at a time when I did not even understood what that meant. It was at Karma. I remember that. You had come with your advisor. And there was nothing. And I was like, I've got this platform. A lot of women like my advice on what to wear. And if I start platforming these saris, and it was a not-for-profit, we bought the saris from the weavers. And the idea was that we should not lose any money. We should make whatever money we can make so that the weavers can have continued work during off-season, which was summer season. A lot has changed right now. Destination weddings happen, so India does not even have an off-season anymore because summer is the busiest for many of us. The sari does not need to be saved. If I go and tell a weaver, can I save your sari? He'll probably look at me and say, save yourself. But what we are doing right now, we are trying to create the same platform with Bengal art. And art in India needs to change because there's a lot of marketing and there's no art. I think real art needs to come back, and the right people should be able to platform arts for art to rightfully have its right price and no exploitation.
Actually, Sabya, I have a follow-up question. The Sabyasachi Foundation, I did want to discuss it briefly. As you have mentioned, you're going to support local artists, and we're going to get to the root of it. Where can people, are you going to have this, is it going to be one center, or are you going to showcase in different places? Like, how is this going to happen?
So I'll tell you, okay, let me talk about this because this is, do I have 5 minutes? This is very close to my heart. You see, my mother was a fabulous artist. She didn't speak Bengali. So she was very, she didn't speak English. So she was very nervous and insecure about going and marketing art, because I've said this before and I'm saying it again, that only in this country, being able to speak fluently in your mother tongue is a liability. It is not a liability anywhere else in the world. And I think that needs to change. Secondly, she had me. At that point of time, nobody was discussing about equal paid gender leaves for maternity. So my mother had to give up her thriving art career. And I remember teaching young kids painting in Sri Shikshatan, in Abhinav Bharati, in YWCA to make ends meet. And for a woman with a fantastic hand, it's an artist, whether you're a dancer or whether you're a singer or whether you're an artist, what you practice is what you become. So my mother's art quality dropped. And I remember taking my mother to my first Fashion Week show, and she was sitting proudly next to Ritu Kumar and telling her, that's my son, he's going to become very big. And I had this little moment of epiphany and saying that, because I am there, she's sitting on the front row and watching, and she's not on the stage. And this has happened to many, many women in this country and many men in this country because of financial difficulties and because of the fact that they have not had the privilege to create businesses like us. A lot of their art died with them, a lot of their aspirations died with them. So I started creating the Sabyasachi Art Foundation, and it's a very simple, and if you know people, let me know, we'll hire them. Because what we do is we get talented artists from Bengal right now, but we'll open it to the whole country and maybe the whole world. And the idea is that we ask them what kind of salaries they get and what kind of art they are creating and where they are working. We make sure that we give them a much better salary than what they're getting in the market. But we tell them that we are going to give you easels, paint brushes, canvas, but paint to the best of your ability. So these artists are trained to paint with us so that their hands don't get destroyed. Many of these artists are absorbed by our company in creating collaborations like wallpaper with Asian Paints, Christian Louboutin, packaging with Estee Lauder, Starbucks, H&M. It goes on and on, Pottery Barn. The only art, and these people have exceptional hands, but not exceptional minds. But there was one artist that I discovered here first through Madhurima, wherever you are, at Taj Bengal, at the lobby of Taj Bengal, and through Aban. If Aban is here in this room, I don't know. And I looked at that artist and I said, my God, if he gets the right tutelage, he's going to become the next Hussain and he's going to become the next Sousa of this country. So Atish Mukherjee has worked with me for 15 years. Many people told him, leave Dada because he's never going to platform you because he's only going to platform himself. But he said, no, I believe in that man. He waited for 15 years for me to platform him. And today, at a price much higher than most of the more established artists in this country, his work was sold out even before the foundation exhibition started to some of the most important and private collectors in the country. And our job is to make sure, and it's a very simple thing, 60%, like galleries give you 50%. We give more than a gallery, we give the artist 60%. The 40% is a not-for-profit. This is going to be plowed back into opening more galleries, creating more awareness of art, and hiring more artists so I can give them their fundamental pride that you should live to paint, not paint to live.
Beautiful.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing. Yeah, I'm so glad you told us about this. Okay, before you leave really quickly, when are you directing that movie? A long time ago, I came to Sabya and I was like, Sabya. Okay, because I saw his work in Guzarish, and of course I'm a fan. I was like, whenever you direct a movie, obviously I was also in my 20s, so giving out free services was a thing. I was like, I will assist you for free. When are you going to direct that movie?
2-3 years, there's a lot to catch up. But the script hasn't changed. I've kept the script because I think it's a beautiful story, and the story is about Calcutta. So maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, for sure.
Amazing. Please call me, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there space for one question? One more question?
It's up to the organizers.
Sure, if you're okay.
Oh, Iti, hi. I didn't see you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Okay. I've enjoyed this conversation. Why is it that the fashion industry in India does not support the traditional crafts and arts in textiles? So what we find here in contemporary fashion now is just a lot of embellishment. Why is that? You don't need embellishment in a culture that is so rich with practices of woven and embroidery and things.
I'll take that question. It's true and not true in many ways. I think because India is a very exuberant country, I think a lot of people get excited about the exuberance of embroidery. But there are some very beautiful brands that are taking textiles forward, if I may say so, like Raw Mango, Gaurang, big fans of them. And at Sabya, what we do is we use a lot of hand-woven textiles as a base for our embroidery. And we have, like for instance, we use a lot of chanderis, we use a lot of jamdanis. Like I wanted to tell you that you'll find them in our dupattas. We use a lot of Banarasis, Kanjivarams, Patolas. And I personally think that, when you're a business which is very large, you should play a balancing act between print, embroidery, and textiles, because all of these need to be nationally conserved. Not one over the other, but all collectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies, gentlemen, our esteemed guests, dear members of the Ladies Study Group, and everyone present here. As we come to the close of this incredible event, I would like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who has made this evening so special. First and foremost, Sabyasachi, heartiest congratulations to you on completing 25 years of blending Indians' cultural heritage with luxury. Thank you for sharing with us today the incredible stories and milestones from your journey, from power of then to the power of now. We are honored to have had you with us this evening. I would also like to thank the lovely Pernia Qureshi for moderating this conversation with such elegance and poise. Your questions really brought out the best of Sabyasachi. To our outgoing president, Minnie Juneja, I would like to offer my warmest congratulations on an incredible event and an outstanding year. Your leadership vision and dedication to the Ladies Study Group have been truly inspiring, and we're all grateful for your tireless effort. Dear members and guests, I would like to thank you for joining us this afternoon. Your presence has really made a lot of difference. I would request Governing Body President, Ms. Preeti Goenka, to please come on stage to hand over a token of our appreciation.